So I had a conversation with a teacher today on the train, and she told me that she noticed that teachers around have been acting very weird. And the way she described it was, you're speaking with a person, and suddenly they are a different person, and that otherness is very closed-hearted or closed-minded. And she literally said the word, it's like Teflon. So I was thinking about the MK Ultra, and I wonder if more people have experienced that. And so we're talking about consciousness, or the thought about cloning consciousness, or people that have been perhaps put under torture. Then they go to work and they suddenly are a different person. On another note, the fact that MK Ultra has made itself very significantly known in Israel, like you literally have Ultra everywhere, and it's not hidden anymore, really makes me more aware of the day-to-day life struggles of the common American person. And that's very pervasive. That is not acceptable. And I think the lovely thing about that reaching a Taurus land is that when Cancer does something like that on a Taurus might not notice at first, but when Taurus begins to assert the boundaries, remember that the other polarity is Scorpio. So for Cancer, the other polarity is Capricorn. And that can mean different things. Okay, for Cancer is like, okay, but I need to have housing. Okay, but I need to have climbing up the ladder. Okay, but I need to have my 401k. And that would mean how do we use that, or how do we climb up the ladder of that system as polarity, or how do we benefit from that, okay? Which basically means that your 401k is invested in MK Ultra if you're American, okay? That's what it means, the stellium that they have in Cancer in the 8th house with the sun. And the leaders think about Biden being head of MK Ultra committee, right? Amongst the heads, he's not the only one. When it comes to, it's the same for Israel, but in different types of psychological dumbfuckery. But when it comes to the boundary assertion from the Taurus, Scorpio is about transforming from the core. And so I think that the good thing about MK Ultra reaching Israel to such an extent is that the Taurian land won't have that dumbfuckery. So either MK Ultra transforms from the core, because when it comes to, let's say, boundary assertion, we're talking about an archetype, okay, the Taurian archetype, where you like, one thing you don't want to do to a Taurus is to unnerve it psychologically, because then you reach the Scorpio land. You're not in Kansas anymore. You're not in Cancer anymore. You're not on Rocky Mountains anymore. They're not going to think about how do we use that to climb up the ladder. Taurus is Venusian. It likes its pleasures. It likes its simplicity. It doesn't like to think too much about what they see, sense, feel, taste, and so on. Okay, in the sense that they like to enjoy that, not ponder about the authenticity of that. Okay, they're not looking for, think about the moon is exalted in Taurus for a reason, that they want their good night's sleep. You mess with that, they're gonna get at your oils, they're gonna get at your gas, they're gonna get at your resources, and they're gonna transform it from the core until you stop the dumbfuckery. Okay, you get a Cancer caught up in the web of a Taurus and they're disrespectful, they better run for their lives. Okay, or stop being disrespectful. It's also always a possibility. Taurus is peace-loving. Like when you think about the Taurus, like if you bug a Taurus and then you're like done with bugging a Taurus, and Taurus believes that you're really done with that, they'll let you go. Okay, that's why, for example, Aries and Taurus don't have too much prolonged conflicts. Like there's a boom, and then Aries transforms and Taurus transforms. It was like there's a new balance, okay, new normal, and that's fixed. Okay. So you think about Cancer as a cardinal sign, it's sextiles, but when you think about the inversion, you know, if you talk to a Taurus about emotional eating, they will tell you, okay, what about getting the right nutrition so that I will be stable emotionally? And kids will be like, oh, I haven't thought about that, changing that from the matter. And then both the idea of changing that from the matter and holding space and listening, not as means to control the psyche. And this is where it can get rough for the Cancer that tries to do that. Although this sextile, Taurus is a fixed land, and it has the Mars pole of Scorpio. Okay, you do not invade a Taurian psyche without at least being prepared that if and when they identify that, their Mars polarity is to penetrate penetrate your water sources and change them from the core. Not pollute them, not poison them necessarily. Don't make a Taurus do that, okay? But they might not even catch themselves doing that because they're just like, why are you doing that? Taurus ask themselves why. Israelis ask a lot of why questions, not how questions, although their Mars is the opposite, but why? And if they get it a good reason why you're doing that, it's like, okay, can we find a more peaceful way to meet your need that does not violate my will and consent or my sensual pleasure or my well-being? And for Taurus, that's very extended, okay? If they need an 8-hour sleep and you're bothering with that, they're going to get at the core of your soul and psyche and ask themselves, why are you doing that? How can I transform the situation so that I get my peace and we don't end up in a perpetual world war? If what you try to perpetuate is a world war, they're going to get at why from the core and change it from the core, okay? So if you're up to oils and gas because that's how you money launder for sex trafficking, don't expect the Taurus to be fearing your mkultra. Okay, don't expect what's working in America to work on Taurian land. Just like a Taurus wouldn't expect what's working in Israel to work on American land, you know, if I come to, let's say, the United States, okay, which is an mkultra infiltrated country, I don't expect that I will meet simplicity there. okay, and which may or may not deter me from, investing in a visa, a passport. You think about how United States make it very prestige to climb up the ladder to go there, and I'm like, wait, there's human trafficking there. It's number one in surveillance. You can travel if you get caught in the streets. Nobody's going to help you. People get trafficked. People get they shoot each other. Like, it's a beautiful land with beautiful people, but that's a pilgrimage. Okay, it's not an elite, prestigious. Okay, if you think about Ivy League. Okay, so from Torian, it's kind of like that's very simple. For example, a lot of complaints that Israelis have about Americans is like, I'll never get what they're thinking. I don't know what they're thinking, because Americans have a moon in Aquarius, which is air-oriented. Okay, it's in a square to Taurus and Scorpio. It doesn't, if he thinks why or he thinks how, he thinks about, the grand things or the humanitarian things and the big things, which is amazing. But it's also very individualistic. It is Saturn ruled, which is more solitary. Okay. One of the complaints about Israelis is they're all in each other's bumhole. Very Scorpionic, right? They're all up in each other's bumhole. They're way too close, even in the city. So. And they completely transform you. So that can be a not long relationship that transforms you from the core, because you're at the Scorpio-Taurus axis. Okay? So that's something that I actually find positive about the fact that mkultra has invaded Israel, because Israelis are very good at innovation, and they're like, what is that, programming? Well, we know programming. So while there are going to be some people who are going to take it to the Scorpionic of like, how do I control, how do I this, how do I that, the Taurian pole has a heavy weight. People want simplicity. Okay? So you don't want to have to ask you why all the time. Definitely not around sensual pleasure. But one thing that caught up great in Israel was when people began to talk with their vagina. Okay, when we began to talk about like our sexual taboos, the sexual revolution, okay, well, women's rights, okay, those things caught very well in Israel. It's a very Venus, Taurus, Scorpio pole. It's like changing from the core of societal values, or basically changing from the core of how we reach an orgasm. And now those that are on the Taurian plane, like Taurus is not one to mess with, because that's exactly the kind of person that's like, hey, if the police won't help me, and the structure won't help me, the government won't help me, then meeting you soul to soul